I'm so happy to welcome Big Sean to the show. His fifth studio album, Detroit 2, is out now. Welcome to the show. Nice to see you.
Hey, Tom. I'm glad to be here, man. Glad to be here talking with you. How you feeling?
I'm not too bad. I'm curious because we're so close in Ontario and so close in Canada to Michigan. Like we're just across the border,
Right.
and yet it can feel like a different world to us. So I'm interested to talk to you a little bit about this. Like, I mean, you, Jay Dilla, Stevie Wonder, Eminem. I mean, the history of Motown. The record's called Detroit 2.
Absolutely.
You're wearing a Detroit shirt. What is it about Detroit that has made it such a breeding ground for artists, for great artists?
Man, that's a great question. It has to be, it has to be something because when I even think about way back and, first of all, the first paved street in America was made in Detroit with the automotive industry, the first mall ever built, and when I think of like Motown, it gave an identity to Black people in music, really, and the imagination to push through to create something so powerful without having any blueprint or any like way to know how to do it it's just really incredible, and I've talked to Barry Gordy about it, and he just was like, man, I failed at every single thing in my life, like till I was 30 something years old. Like he said, I did like 100 things, man, and I failed at all of them. And then finally Motown worked. And I don't know, man. It's like it's a special place. It's a place that's seen the top and the bottom dramatically.
Mm.
So I think that has, given character to the people from Detroit, and it's given them an unbreakable spirit and a resilience and a hunger and a passion that, shows through in everything that happens there, including the music and the art.
I'm happy to hear you say a couple of things in there. One is that it has the top and the bottom, and it's a city of resilience, because I feel like that's what I hear from you on this record. Detroit 2 is obviously the follow-up to your acclaimed mixtape, Detroit. What's the biggest difference in you from then to now?
The biggest difference from me from then to now has to be, it just has to be the way I view things, I guess, and how I approach things. I feel like one of the main reasons why I called this album Detroit 2 is because, I was going through such a tough time in my life that I, had tons of anxiety, tons of depression. I really felt like broken on the inside.
Yeah.
And I had to take some time for myself for the first time in my life, which I didn't even know how to do. So I had to really figure it out, through therapy, through a lot of meditation and just spiritual guidance, through like just rediscovering myself. And when I did, especially doing a lot of that spiritual work, I went back to like, my younger days, because I had lost that passion that I once had, and I wanted to rediscover it. And I was thinking like, damn, why did I go to the Friday Night Cypher when I was 16 years old and like do that show every week? Why was I sleeping in the studio? Like, why the was I so hungry? And when I really went back to those times, it like relit my passion and relit my flame and hunger. And, I think that it reminded me of when I was working on the Detroit mixtape. So it was like, I brought those essences back, but as a new and improved version of myself. And, I think that I'm still figuring out. It's still a journey, right? Obviously, but it's just my bandwidth has expanded a lot since the first Detroit mixtape,
Let's listen to a song. Take a listen to this.
Damn, I realized all my setbacks were inside of me. In high school, I learned chemistry, biology, but not how to cope with anxiety, or how I could feel like I'm by myself on an island with depression on all sides of me. With a Glock 17 right on the side of me. Look, I ain't think I had the thought of suicide in me until life showed me all these different sides of me. Too many times I thought the Reaper was outside for me. And how the fuck is people
That is Deep Reverence by Big Sean. He's my guest, featuring the late Nipsey Hussle. That line really stuck with me. I didn't think I had the thought of suicide in me until life showed me all these different sides of me. And Sean, I want to be clear. I'm not here to get you to talk about anything you don't want to talk about.
Of course.
However, you see how I managed to take that when you were talking about Detroit, that it's ups and downs and it's resilience. And I think you hear that in that song.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's been some times, your mind can really, really play a lot of tricks on you too. And you could really get in your thoughts. And I'm somebody who lives in my head a lot. So, I realized that I didn't know how to deal with things properly, and I can deal with them way better now. I still feel a lot of the same ways. Sometimes I feel like we all do, but it's just really about how you deal with them and how you're able to get through them and really bring yourself back to like your core thoughts. You feel me?
I do, and I think it's an interesting conversation about when you get to the top, when you make a bunch of money, when you get success, when you get things that you've been hopeful for. Mm-hmm. How do I put this? Your problems don't go away. Like, you know what I mean? Like, do you know what? Like, I think there's an assumption that, and I think I felt this, that if I only get to, if I only sell so many, if I only have this profile, then maybe all the other stuff will go away. It's like, when did you start to realize that that wasn't the case?
Man, when I bought the house that Slash used to live in and, all these beautiful things, and had probably had the most money I guess I've ever had, but I just was the most depressed that I've ever been in my life. And like, when I say I had a Glock 17 in my hand, I really did, and it was just, I don't know why I was feeling like that, but I couldn't stop feeling like it. Like, it felt like it was deep, and it taught me that all these conditional things are just that, you think you want all this, like the watch or the car and all that, right? But it's like those things get old so quick that you got to realize that, okay, why are you really doing it? And for me, it's like, I'm doing it because this is my purpose, like I feel like my purpose is to inspire. So if I'm walking in my purpose and realize that and accept that, and I hear that in my music, it's way more fulfilling than any other thing I could either ever do, It
reminds me of a couple of months ago, you tweeted, don't pretend to be okay if you're not. What happens to your music if you're pretending to be okay? Like, I feel like something happens to your music, right.
Yeah, hell yeah. And anything you do, music, just any profession you're in, like business, if you're a lawyer, if you're flipping hamburgers, you know what I mean? Like anything in between, it's like, you can't pretend to be okay. It's just a front that's only gonna last for so long. And, you gotta prevent yourself from self-destructing. It happens.
I think that as fans, we don't take it seriously when it's an artist we love, or especially when it's an artist that has inspired us or an artist that has given us good times. I think even in the case of Kanye, and I want to point out, I know Kanye is your friend, and I know he discovered you in so many ways. I only want you to talk about what you're comfortable talking about there. But when I look at him, when I look at like Kim Kardashian West, his wife, who comes out and says like, listen, this guy is struggling. She said, he needs compassion while he's dealing with his bipolar disorder. And there's a lot of manifestations of that. Yeah. She said he needs compassion. I wonder if we take mental health seriously enough in the artists that we love. You know what I mean?
I wonder if we take it serious enough in just the people we love too, not just the artists. Like, I remember when I started going to therapy, my dad started going to therapy, it was like it inspired him to do that. So, I come from a family where it's like my grandma was one of the first female Black captains in World War II, and my granddad was in World War II as well, and they met back then. So they were amazing people, but they didn't know how to express their emotions, and it trickled down, I feel like, to me. So, I got confused when I got older and had all these emotions just pent up inside of me and had to figure it out, And when you look at our favorite artists or, people like Kanye or, I feel like there are no people like Kanye. He's very, very unique, in a great way, He's always just been like, says what's on his heart, and it's just like a pure creative. and a extremely the most talented artist, you know, of his generation. And yeah, it can be a lot to handle when you live in a life that's so high, like just what's the right word? Just I don't want to say in demand, but just it's just like high pressure.
I
You know
think,
what I mean?
yeah, and I think there's a lack of humanity that I think when people become celebrities or people on the cover of magazines or they have a trillion followers on Instagram, they're no longer humans. You know what I mean? They become stories. They become,
Yeah, and people pick you apart, you know, like you're not a human being or you know, they talk about your babies and say, "Oh, that kid looks ugly," or they say, you know, smash or pass, or they say, you know, man, this guy could have done better, or what happened to him, or he's canceled, or she's canceled. And it's like they hold you to these standards that are not even human. I feel like or I don't even know if they hold themselves to the same standards, and that's kind of it's kind of weird because who are we to really judge each other? I mean, I feel like I would grew up going to church and you know being told that God is the only one that could judge us. You know. So it's like, it gets confusing to me that that's the way of life or how we live. You know, that's just like up to me a little bit. But I do appreciate social media because of how connected we all are and how on the same platform we all can be on. But it's something about the way that how the people on there are like operating on it is a little low frequency sometimes.
you bring a lot of people a lot of joy. Is that part of what brings you joy then? Like, I'm just trying to think about, like, you know, we're talking about this incredible darkness and obviously no one comes out of it. Like no one fully comes out of it. We all live with it with a certain amount of ourselves, but I can tell you've done some growth here. Like how much of like inspiring people or making people just dance or like feel good while they put their makeup on is part of you bringing yourself joy?
That's all that really brings me joy from my craft. It's not really, I mean, making the music can be fun and you know, and that's joy, but it's only like why you make it, right? But the real joy is the impact of it, really, the inspiration. Like you said, somebody putting on makeup, being in the gym. You know, the Rock hit me up and was like, man, that song with you and Post Malone, Wolves, really like I had that on repeat, like in the gym, man. That one really was pushing me. It's moments like that, you know, from your idols or just from people like family members. My aunt hit me up saying like, "Yo, you killed this album, nephew. You really did." You know, that made me so happy, you know, because it's like that is my whole purpose is to inspire, you know, uplift, to motivate. It could be inspired to dance, have a good time, to, you know, get in your head and create and whatever it is. It's just I feel like that's my real purpose though.
I can relate. I can relate to it. The Rock hits me up sometimes to ask me about lifting. I don't know if you noticed this, but like, you know, he hits me up sometimes. I just need some help. I'm having a hard time getting past the, you know, the chin up.
Right.
I've done one chin up in my life, but I did it pretty well. Listen, in the topic of joy, I want to go back to this clip. Take a listen to this.
What's my purpose? Why is my purpose? Where is my purpose? I am purpose.
I mean, that song leads to where we are, right, in our conversation right now. What's your purpose?
My purpose is to inspire, you know, like that's it. You know, in anything that I do, whether it's music, if I choose to write a book, if I choose to, you know, I started a production company with one of my best friends and like he's like an amazing director and writer. So working on TV shows, I can't let 50 Cent get all of that. And, you know, it's just whatever I choose to do, it's like with love and inspiration attached to it, because that's just where I'm at. That's my purpose, you know.
All right, so I want to end with joy then, and I want to give you an option here. We have about a minute left. I want to end with bringing a bit of joy to the audience right now, and I want to give you an option. Can you either tell me the story, like a story you got from playing the White House, a story about... Let me see here. Or the story of you getting discovered by Kanye, or maybe the story that Dave Chappelle tells on the record about your dad. Pick one of those. I'd love to hear you end with a little bit of joy here today, if you don't mind.
Well, performing at the White House, being the first rapper to perform there, that was crazy, you know. And that was with Ariana back then at the White House, and that was an honor.
Do you got a story about it? Do you remember something about it?
Well, I remember I met Jim Carrey there, and I rapped about that on One Man Could Change the World, and that was a good day. Uh, you know, I'm trying to think of the other things you said. Dave Chappelle.
Tell the Dave Chappelle story, maybe. Can you quickly tell the Dave Chappelle story?
Yeah, okay. So I'm hopping off of a plane, and Dave Chappelle's hopping on a plane. This is like at 5 a.m, and I'm so like fuzzy, like because it's like 5 a.m,
Yeah.
and I see Dave Chappelle, and I'm like, oh shit, it's Dave Chappelle. So I'm walking up to Dave Chappelle, and he's walking up to me, and he's like, bro, I love your dad. And I'm like, what? Like, what the? And I remember my dad called me a couple months ago before that and was like, man, I was just with Dave Chappelle. Yo, he loves your music, son. Like, he told me he listens to, your albums. And I was backstage, and my dad was like saying all this stuff. And I was thinking that my dad was exaggerating the story a little bit, because he's done that a couple times. And when Dave Chappelle said that to me, that was the first thing he said when I met him. I was like, oh shit. I immediately called my dad after and was like, yo, my bad. I didn't realize that you really meant like you had an impact on Dave Chappelle, and then Dave Chappelle was telling me about it, and I told him that I was working on the album Detroit, and he was like, yo, man, not only will I say a story for you, like if you ever have a concert in Detroit, I'll open up or do a set for you, like, and donate all my proceeds. He's like a real stand-up, a real GOAT, a real stand-up guy. And I just appreciated him for, being involved. But it was the craziest thing though, man, to think about. I mean, think about running into Dave Chappelle the first time you never met him. And it's 5 a.m. And then he says, I love your dad.
Sean, I'll tell you this. I think I got to go, but like I think being a great, a good, decent person manifests itself in a lot of ways. One is offering to open up your show. One is offering to donate the proceeds. One is offering to help you out. Another is being honest about the stuff that we don't like to talk about that affects us, so that we feel like we're not the only ones going through it. And I want to thank you for that.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate you. What a great interview. And thank you for listening, man. And thank you for being a real voice of somebody who really cares. Keep up that great work.
We'll see you across the border now soon, maybe in like 2024.
Yeah.